This is PowerPoint session number 3 on teaming. During this session, we're going to be looking at criteria for successful teaming. We're going to be looking at a model for planning interdisciplinary units. We'll look at other purposes for meetings. Teams do other things besides plan units. And then we'll take a look at how it all fits together, what the week might look like. Let's look at the criteria for successful teaming first. The very first thing is that there must be common planning time for each of the teachers on the team, and I'm going to add there daily. It's extremely important, and it's apparent in the research literature and in what we've seen in schools that teachers that meet together daily at the same time are much more successful in their teaming efforts than those that aren't. 1 or 2 days a week will simply not do it. Or if there's not common planning time, if teachers try to make time to meet before school or after school and it's not built into the schedule, it generally does not work very well. And as we talk about what goes on during the team meetings, it should become apparent why it's extremely important that teachers have this common planning time. Also, teachers will have an additional planning time. A personal planning time, because they still have their own lesson planning, etc. to do. Secondly, the teachers on the team should have interpersonal communication skills. And basically that just means that they know how to communicate with each other. They know how to ask questions. They know how to ask for clarification. They know how to take turns. They understand that everyone has an opinion and should have time to express that opinion. All of those kinds of things that we've all experienced, where in a group, if there's one person who does not have those interpersonal communication skills, it makes it very difficult for the group to work well. And last, kind of similar to the second one actually, cooperative planning skill. This is really focusing, however, on the planning that teachers are able to do. Some people plan very well alone, by themselves, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but they probably don't belong on a middle school team then. Teachers on a middle school team do their planning together. Actually, one of the very nice things, one of the attractive things about middle school for teachers is that they get to plan in a group. They don't have to do it all themselves, and yet they get to go away from that group and do some of their own individual planning in their own content area. Now we're going to talk about a model for planning interdisciplinary units. This is a very basic, generic model that is designed to be a foundation for teams to use. They can then modify it in whatever way best meets their needs. There are 6 meetings in this particular model, and we'll look at those individually in just a moment. But it's important to understand that we're not talking about 6 consecutive days necessarily. We might also be talking about, for example, meeting number 4, organizing the unit. That might be several meetings number 4, especially if you're talking about a brand new unit that you're planning from the beginning, one that has not been used before by your team. All of these meetings take place during the common team planning time. So next we'll take a look at each of these meetings individually. Okay, meeting number 1 is really the getting started meeting. And at that meeting, your team will probably have an idea of the general theme or idea for a unit without any of the specifics yet. So for example, we could imagine that we're in a fall semester and it's an election year, and we've decided we're going to do a unit centered around elections. And so we might do some talking about that at that first meeting. We're also probably going to review the Illinois Learning Standards. Each content area person might want to review what learning standards can be met through this unit, and also the district goals. Usually districts will have goals and objectives or guidelines of some type that probably should be reviewed at this point as well. It's also a good idea to decide what the roles of the teachers on the team are going to be in planning this unit. For example, if the social studies teacher in our example for the elections unit wants to take the lead on this unit, that would make sense because this unit does have social studies as its basis. Another teacher would take the lead on another unit later. Sometimes it's a great idea to designate a record keeper kind of person for this particular unit. That's going to be the person who will take notes during the meetings, will organize the information, and usually teams like to rotate that role because it's not necessarily something someone always wants to do. However, if you have a teacher on your team that is a real organizer and likes to do that, there's nothing wrong with letting that person do that every single time you plan a unit. It's really whatever works within your team. So when you leave this first meeting, you have an idea for the unit, but you haven't done any specific planning yet. In the second meeting, you're going to spend some time brainstorming objectives and activities. And we're talking about true brainstorming with no restrictions. We know with kids, for example, that when we let them truly brainstorm, sometimes ideas that aren't plausible or might even be somewhat silly will initiate some thought in another student. They will piggyback off that first idea and come up with some really good ideas. Same thing is true here. There should be no restrictions about, you know, is the objective or the activity feasible? Is it going to cost too much? How's it going to work in the schedule? None of those judgments should be made at this point. There might be more than one meeting that the team spends doing this brainstorming. So you'll have kind of a messy list of things, and maybe that list is up on a whiteboard, or maybe it's been recorded by your record keeper, maybe it's been audio recorded, whatever works for your team. And at the end of meeting number 2 or meetings number 2, the record keeper, whoever that is, will take the list and clean it up only in the sense that he or she will get rid of repetitions. No judgments yet will be made. In meeting number 3, that's where you come back and truly make the decisions about those objectives and activities and start to kind of put those together to see what makes sense. This is where you'll make your judgments. It's possible that some wonderful activities that you brainstormed in the first session you might want to keep on the back burner for later, but you know right now there's no money to do it, or there's a travel issue, or maybe there's a speaker that you would like to have come and you know that person's not going to be available this fall. Those kinds of judgments will be made together, and again, you might have more than one meeting number 3. At the end of those meetings, however, each teacher will get a subset of objectives that fit his or her content area and will take those away and do their own work on lesson planning in their own content area. It's possible, and it's hopeful actually, that there's some activities that can be team taught. Maybe there's something that the language arts and the social studies teacher can truly do together. Then they'll both take that objective or set of objectives and the activities, and we'll do some planning, just the two of them together on that.